There is a line that we have in the West. It's hindsight is 20/20, which means looking back at a situation or an event and having a clear understanding of what happened, maybe some fuller knowledge of what transpired and what either was of benefit or not. And that His Holiness is really one of the things I found very helpful that he has said in regards to hindsight. He said, if you want to see how much progress you have made in your Dharma life, sometimes looking back a few days or a few weeks, there's not much change. But if you're willing to look back over a course in time, you can start really seeing that your mind is changing, your good qualities are growing. And because the path is so long, it's an encouraging, reassuring thing to do. So today I wanted to share with you some of the things that, for me, hindsight is 20/20, that I have learned to appreciate over the course of my life here, not just exploring monastic life, but also living in community here. And that it's not that I wish I would have known now what I knew then, what I know now, because that would have never happened. I mean, I didn't have the mind I have now. I don't have the karma ripening that I have now. But to be able to appreciate the things that have grown in my mind and my practice, to understand that there are still things that are unresolved as far as habits and ways of thinking, and things that I really need to work on, but to rejoice at what has transpired over the course of my life in robes. And it's also hindsight. I find it to be extremely helpful that I can see some of the decisions I am making now, when I look back, that I have been able to avoid some mistakes in behavior, some mistakes in perspective, or the growing of my perspective over time. So here's a few of them that I've really learned to appreciate, that me personally, subjectively, have appreciated about my life. First of all is having a teacher that is a monastic, that embodied the Vinaya, that embodied this life, that kept precepts, that shared the Dharma, and trusted the life so much that she encouraged and supported her students and others to do so, that lived the Vinaya. And that I was very, very inspired by what Venerable was attempting. And that's why I came here. Now, I wasn't intentionally or originally aspiring to come here to ordain, but I was inspired to support her. And over the course of the programs here in the past, well, it's been since 2005, we had our first Exploring Monastic Life, is that we've had a few monastics come here from other traditions, from other places, that really made a connection with this community. And they hadn't been ordained very long, and they really appreciated the training. And they were enthusiastic to come back, spend more time, and they went to talk to their teachers, and the teachers said, no. We've got other things, we've got other plans for you, a retreat, Dharma centers, projects, which, that relationship is very special and precious, but there was always a part of me seeing their enthusiasm and their yearning to train, and to find that that wasn't going to happen, at least at that point in their life. So I really appreciate the fact that my teacher embodies a life that I decided to choose, and that if I had not had Venerable as my teacher, I'm not sure I would have ever been able to manage or navigate this aspiration for myself. I didn't know I had it, but moving here ripened it quite powerfully. And what is so helpful once I made that decision is that this particular environment is very nourishing and very supportive of the monastic mind. Even if you're here just to explore, even if you're here just to be curious, there's something about the environment here that helps us to explore how deep is that sincerity, how deep is that aspiration, because it needs to be steady and it needs to be strong. So this is an incredible experience to be able to check in and get some clarity about that. The other thing, too, that took a while was to be ready to see a lot of our misconceptions and romantic notions, ordination fever, whatever you want to call it, about what ordained looks like that are not true. I mean, the t-shirt that says life is good, a little t-shirt there, life, RVs and great food and vacations, life is good. But life is amazing. But yet Venerable says, and I have taken this to heart very much, he says, there's one thing about ordaining, but then what? The day after ordination. How is that aspiration going to hold? And that it's not what we think it is. You know, the life of meditation and solitude and hours of study as you wish, others taking care of you, of your basics, realizations come easily, renunciation is a walk in the park, now that we're in robes. It's very interesting to discover what our misconceptions are about what being a member of the Sangha is really about. And I had my bums kicked a few times because it was not turning out the way that I had thought. It's slow going. It's working with transforming our minds, refraining from the grossest non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, being compassionate towards ourselves and others. I mean, there's qualities that I needed to develop that I didn't have a big array of. I didn't have a lot of fortitude. I didn't have a sense of humor about it. I had no flexibility. Compassion a little bit. Determination, somewhat, because I'm just stubborn. I think determination is a more virtuous aspect of stubbornness or tenacity. But they're qualities that we may not have much in any given moment, but bear fruit if we're willing to cultivate them. And they're like requisites to be able to live in community in a monastic life. The Exploring Monastic Life will uncover any obstacles that you have inside your mind that you're not even cognizant of. The group discussions over these past years, I don't do them much anymore, but in the first 10, 12 years, group discussion was a way to get clarity, to push up against the things that I was attached to, that I had expectations around. And it's really very thought-provoking, it's very pointed, it's very powerful, and it's very clarifying, the group discussions. I found them to be one of the great markers of how my monastic aspiration had some stuff in the way of it. Not so much that I wasn't going to ordain, but how I could be able to sustain that life the day afterwards and beyond. I also learned that there was a difference in seeing my precepts and these robes as a protection for my mind, rather than a tight, narrow box that I had to fit in to show the world that I was a renunciate and that I was special. Now, one of the ways that I knew this was happening is that soon after I had ordained, maybe in 2009, 2010, I paid my first visit to Vermont in robes. My sister lived in Vermont. My twin brother came up with his family. And they came up to visit and see me. And because I was holding my precepts so tight, they were having a little barbecue in the backyard. They had tofu for me, but they also had hot dogs. They had beer. I spent the entire evening sitting in my room because I didn't want to be with them because they were eating these things that I chose not to eat. They had come all the way up to see me, and I spent my entire time in the room because I felt that was something that I did not want to participate in. I could hear them laughing downstairs in the backyard. They were having a blast. I was holding my precepts so tight and being so arrogant around it. And I have to say that it was probably not the first good impression for my family to be able to see. Jane, she understood because she'd come to the ordination, but my twin brother, he'd never seen me in robes. And I didn't see him for a number of years, much, much later. I came home from that and I went, gosh, Semke, that was bad. And then over the course of time, I went back a number of years later, I think it was Jane's 60th birthday or something like that, and I saw that, you can do this. Your precepts protect your mind, but relax. That's the Venerable's koan for me for like 25 years, is Semke, just relax. And so I was able to go and be with them, enjoy, to be with them in my robes, connect, and just hold it with ease. And it was a totally different experience. And it really helped me to connect with my family. They had no idea why I did what I did, but that really helped to make the connection. Then living in community is the biggest mirror you will ever have to look into. Now, the first thing that happens is that we have a habit of pointing that mirror outwards. You're going to want to see everybody else's blind spots, everybody else's afflictions, everybody else's level of practice. And you see the judging mind, you see the comparing mind, you see the jealous mind, you see the proud mind. Because you see that. But then you find out that the mirror is really showing you more about yourself than it's showing you about others. And that it's showing you your blind spots, your afflictions, your strengths, your level of practice. Really. We don't pull it. You cannot pull any punches living in a monastic community with the level of transparency that's required to grow in the Vinaya. And then what happens over time is that you realize the trade-off when you look in that mirror and you refuse to accept what you're seeing, that you endanger the harmony of the community and you keep yourself trapped in suffering. And over time you learn that best to not judge, best to not compare. Keep your opinions to yourself, unless they're ones that resonate and you ask permission to give it. This is one I still haven't even gotten close to doing, but I see the importance of it. So this mirror it's magnified, and it's so clear because you've got the Vinaya, you've got the guidelines, you've got your teacher, you've got your community to show you what it is that you've garnered through your practice and what are the things you still need to cultivate and still need to learn. And this is the core life practice here, is to be able to use that mirror with a kind of joy, a kind of willingness. And it doesn't come easy because we're so used to throwing that mirror out and saying that somebody else's problem, that I'm suffering. And then last but not least, which I have found to be one of the most remarkable things about wearing robes, is that you will find yourself being a magnet for strangers. They will do full confessions to you in the plane seat next to you. They will try to convert you because they know at 37,000 feet you don't have anywhere to go. They may be inspired by seeing you. Oh, do you know the Dalai Lama? And then the conversation starts. But be prepared and to trust your refuge, to be humble, don't defend, support whatever similarities that are there, and to be respectful. And so I find this to be one of the most engaging ways in which I appreciate so much being in robes, is that it draws people to us. And to not be afraid, not to be intimidated, not to defend, or not to boast, but to really use it as a connecting force between you and sentient beings. So these are 8 of the first things that came flowing out of me yesterday. I'm sure there are many other things that in 2020 hindsight I will learn. Maybe I'll see what comes out for the next while. But I wanted to share with you the beauty, the strength, and the wisdom that one can garner if you're willing to walk the talk and to be able to open up your heart and mind to your aspiration at whatever level it is. I didn't even know I had one, folks. And I'm here now 20 years, okay? So it can be nourished, it can be supported if you're willing to give it the environment that it deserves. So anyway.